Most people, when they think of being in the media or public relations or visibility, they think about it from the perspective of, I'm going to get in front of audiences and I'm going to get a bunch of people that are going to buy my stuff as a result of it. They look at it as a way of lead generation. Listen, yes, when you get on stages and you get in front of people, are you going to be exposed to new audiences? Yeah, absolutely. However, that is only just one of maybe 5 or 6 areas where you as a personal brand or you as your company are getting value.
Welcome back to the Talking Web Marketing Podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks, and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. Ilana Wexler here with another episode of Talking Web Marketing. So today's episode is a little bit different, actually. I'm interviewing a guy called Josh Elledge, who runs upmyinfluence.com, an agency, I guess you could call him an agency. Well, his business helps people gain authority and influence by getting on traditional media, be it TV and radio. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk to him because although the work that I do and the strategies that I talk about on this podcast is all about paid media and online advertising and all that kind of stuff, the work that Josh does, I can see, is really tying in very closely to paid media as well. So using mainstream media in conjunction with online advertising. So Josh is an interesting guy. I actually met him recently in San Diego, and he's been featured on TV and radio more than 2,000 times. So he certainly knows a thing or two about how to get on such television shows. And I kind of press him quite hard in this interview in terms of what are some actionable steps that people can take to improve their chances on getting picked up by mainstream media and getting the opportunity to illustrate their expertise in such media that would really, I think, do wonders for their online advertising as well. So I don't think it's one or the other. I actually see how the work that Josh does can really be used side by side with the stuff that we talk about. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get stuck straight into today's show.
Ilana, thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is definitely mine. We met recently, a few months ago in San Diego. We were both speaking at Social Media Marketing World, talking about different topics, but related topics. So I thought, this is exactly the person that I want to interview because you are all about how to leverage mainstream media for, I guess, building authority and revenue, etc. And I can really see how that would tie in beautifully into paid traffic campaigns. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Do you want to kind of give me, I guess, a quick high-level overview of kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So about 11, 12 years ago, I started a company called Savings Angel. And when I started that company, this actually, I think, predates the rise of Facebook. And so I was in a dilemma where I needed visibility. We had created a website that would help consumers cut their grocery bill in half. But as I mentioned, I just didn't have any money for advertising. And so what do you do when you want to get visibility, but you don't have any money? Yeah. Well, that's a pickle. And so what I did is I just started reaching out to anyone I could who had an audience. And I said, look, I'd love to advertise, but I don't quite have the budget for that. Is there any way that I could create content and that content would be so good that the audience would just love it? And, we could really focus on delivering super high value that way. So I reached out to radio stations, news magazines, newspapers, TV stations, blogs, influencers at the time, really anyone I could who would be willing to work with me. And so I would do segments where I would come up with, for example, how to get Cheerios for 50 cents a box, how to get breakfast cereal for 50 cents a box, how to get, laundry detergent for 90% off. And so if I explained how to do that each and every week, I would say, okay, well, just go to this website, grab this coupon, bring it into this store, and you get your groceries for pennies on the dollar. It became actually a very popular segment. And so I actually did that, and it actually started making a lot of money for me. And I was thrilled at that because, flash forward many years later, and we've now generated over $6 million in revenue, and I've spent less than $500 in advertising. I just have never needed to do paid ads. I could, we've boosted, and that $500, maybe we've boosted a couple of posts or something like that. But really, it's just all about, how can I really step up my game and become an indispensable source for audiences. And if I do that enough, then I start to build my authority and I start to build my own brand and my own name. And so then when I do get more visibility opportunities, I kind of leverage the fact that the audience kind of already knows me. And so I can start at a higher level, right? Rather than having to start from scratch with everybody, which, in the world of paid advertising, this lends itself quite a bit to that subject because, you could pay a lot per lead or you could pay a little per lead. And if that audience is already kind of warmed up to you, they've already built up a little bit of know, like, and trust for you, then you're just simply not going to have to pay as much. And that's my goal is I now am in a position, I've been in the media now over 2,000 times. I started serving pro bono in our local startup community. And just over 5 years ago, I started a company called Up My Influence, where that's our focus is we turn entrepreneurs and executives into media celebrities. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want them to just experience what it's like to be celebrated everywhere they go. And Ilana, you and I had the pleasure of seeing Mark Schaefer. You may be familiar with Mark Schaefer, Marketing Rebellion.
Yes.
And if you look at the latest research for advertisers, it's it's a different world when it comes to consumer behavior. And 11, 12 years of background in studying consumer behavior and leading consumer behavior, I could tell you exactly what's going on and why it's happening and why advertisers really need to pay attention to their authority. And it's just not enough to design better and better ads today.
I couldn't agree with you more, which is, I guess, a huge admission from someone like me who runs who's done a lot of paid advertising. And I guess I kind of see the merits in building authority and then leverage that authority with paid advertising. I kind of see them working really well together rather than one or the other, using authority and using media outlets to try and send people to your website to then build the retargeting list. And it's a completely different remarketing campaign when you've got authority and it's like fanning that fire, I think everyone could agree they can see the merits as to why you would want to do this. They kind of seem obvious. If you're starting out, what would be the first step, I guess, is it really just as straightforward as contacting some radio stations? I would imagine these people are inundated with requests.
No, it's even further back, Ilana. And let me kind of shift someone's thinking here a little bit, because most people, when they think of being in the media or public relations or visibility, they think about it from the perspective of, I'm going to get in front of audiences and I'm going to get a bunch of people that are going to buy my stuff as a result of it. They look at it as a way of lead generation. Listen, yes, when you get on stages and you get in front of people, are you going to be exposed to new audiences? Yeah, absolutely. However, that is only just one of maybe 5 or 6 areas where you as a personal brand or you as your company are getting value. Some other areas of value is you're building a relationship with an influencer. If you're working with a producer or writer, an Instagram macro influencer, a YouTuber that's got a big audience, it's really, when I talk about working with the media, it's really a function of connecting with influencers. And those influencers could be in traditional media. They can be in social media. It's really irrelevant. The rules are pretty much the same. So one of the areas that I really think is the most undervalued aspect of working on large stages is what it does to your authority. And if we as entrepreneurs and executives and professionals were to focus on and just say everything needs to lead toward growing my authority, what would happen a year from now? Well, what's going to happen a year from now if you've invested everything into growing your personal brand and growing the brand of your business is you're going to find that everything in life is just easier. So, for example, Ilana, you had the opportunity to speak at Social Media Marketing World. And I suspect that you've also gone to conferences where perhaps you've been just another face in the crowd. And it's a completely different experience.
It's true.
I've gone and I've been a keynote speaker at conferences. And let me tell you, you just get treated differently. So your opportunity for partnerships, for new clients, it just goes way up when you get that celebration of who you are. That's what our focus is on.
I guess it's also somewhat hard to quantify. How do you quantify your authority? How is one media outlet more authority building than another?
Yeah.
How does one decide, that good starting point?
Well, so there is media and visibility, like working with influencers. There's stuff that you do for visibility. Like, I'm going to do this. And this would be particularly like, let's say you're working with an Instagram influencer, for example. Okay. You're not going to get a lot of authority out of that. You're not going to get a lot of authority out of being on Facebook. Why? Because anybody can be on Facebook. Anyone could technically work with an influencer. However, those are actually good avenues to get immediate sales. But what we ultimately want to do is we want to do that while we are working on our authority, because your authority is going to make your sales funnel actually work so much better. And here's how you quantify it. So let's say that your paid traffic is going to a lead capture page. And so this is something you can test. What would happen if you had, let's say, for example, Sydney's biggest newspaper, you were quoted there. You were quoted on the morning TV news. You were quoted in TechCrunch and a number of other, popular and respected news outlets online. Well, if let's say you put 5 or 6 logos on your lead capture page, you could do an A/B test on that. And I can tell you from my experience that it is almost always going to improve your conversion rate by 10, 15, 20%. And so now you look at increasing your bottom line by 10, 15, 20%. That makes a difference. And I'll tell you that when you can lead with your authority, and Ilana, if you do this right, you'll actually get people and I'm going to talk specifically to people who do, eventually they need to talk with somebody on a call or on Zoom or something like that. And they need to have part of a sales process. So you're going to be talking with somebody before they purchase your product or service. When you have a potential client who respects you because of you've gotten those indicators of authority, you're just going to experience a different kind of call. I've done Facebook advertising way back when I absolutely had no authority, and it was, targeting a new audience. They didn't know who I was. I wasn't using my authority, wasn't leading with my authority. And I literally had people on the call that are like, okay, well, what are you selling? And they had almost such an indifference for me. And then I've had people, and Alana, I'm sure you've had this as well, where somebody's actually seen you on stage or they've seen you profiled somewhere. And when you get on the phone with them, they're almost a little starstruck to talk with you. I want that for people. I want that certainly for our clients, but I want everybody to be celebrated for the work that they do. And so if you communicate, because again, people are going to follow your lead. People don't know whether or not, they don't know what category to put you in. Are you, an A-lister in the world of business? Are you B, C, D, or maybe F? And so if you're an F-lister, again, be prepared for very difficult phone sales conversations. Again, if you're respected, you've got, and we'll talk about where that authority comes from. There's actually 3 different areas, but when people can sense it, it's just, you don't have to be very good at sales. People just naturally are gravitated toward you because they feel like you've got the momentum and they want a part of it.
Okay, so here's a question. Are there any certain types of businesses that you think media outlets would not be interested in?
No, I don't. And the reason why is we could break down media again into several different categories. So you've got, and again, I think the more appropriate word that we've learned to use is, because when we started off, we were like, well, Josh has been in the media over 2,000 times. We'll focus on media. Well, that's kind of a loaded term when in fact, all we really want is we want to be celebrated on stages of some sort. And so again, those could be virtual, they could be social media, YouTube, whatever it is. We've made connections with huge YouTubers. We've made connections with getting our clients on reality TV shows. We've gotten our clients on every possible type of traditional media you can think of, big Instagrammers. And so, no, I don't think there's anybody that is, would be hands off. Now, you could even look at maybe specific industry niche news websites, for example. There is a stage for you somewhere. I don't care what it is that you do. There is an audience that wants to hear what you have to share. And so my job is to work with that person, get them from behind their computer screen. I'm sorry, you can get up to a certain level. I think it's very, in today's economy, you can absolutely get up to a 6-figure income behind your computer screen. But eventually, if you want to get to 7 figures, you're going to need to get out from behind your computer screen, and you're just going to need to start being an industry thought leader, an industry expert, and start serving the broader community and start serving other audiences.
Okay, I totally see your point. So say someone who's got, I don't know, a training business, what would be a good starting point for them if they want to leverage media?
Well, okay, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Number one is going to be audience selection. So I'm going to talk about that first. Yep. And then number 2, don't let me forget this, is I want to talk about, kind of these first steps on what someone, let's say they're early stage in their business, what should they be doing? The first thing I'm going to talk about here is audience selection. How do you know where to go? How do you know who to serve? So the idea here is that you want to go where your audience is already pre-congregated. So somebody's already done the work for you. They've already pulled together. As long as you know who your audience is, you want to say, where do these people go? So for example, a savings angel. My audience, moms in the suburbs. I've been working with moms for 12 years. I love working with moms. I love, even as a guy, even as a dad, I absolutely love serving that audience. I have a heart for it. Like, it's just part of my calling. So I have learned that to reach that audience, I need to be on local TV. I need to work with mom bloggers. I need to work with bloggers that focus and social media social media influencers who talk about shopping, saving, makeup, mom things, parenting type things. And I found that in regards to TV, It's that 9 to 10 a.m. hour.
Yes.
And that, let me tell you, Lana, that has been my sweet spot for 12 years, is I have done over 700 TV segments in that 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. hour, because
Wow.
that is when apparently my audience watches TV.
And I would,
They're home with the baby. I generally work with moms that are kind of getting into that nesting phase of life. And so that has absolutely been a perfect audience for me. Okay. So that's just my example of audience selection. And that's an important concept to know, because, again, you don't want to spin your wheels, waste your time talking to an audience that could care less about what you have to say. So that's an important concept to remember. Now, let's talk about the first things you should do. And what's really important to understand before I get into that is where authority comes from. Where are today's indicators of authority? And they come from three places. Number one, it is going to, and this is what people are going to look for. And Mark Schaefer talks about this in Marketing Rebellion. You have to understand that consumers have become more guarded, more protective of themselves than ever before. It's because we've all wasted time with we've all bought courses or whatever that, we've just wasted money, we've wasted time, and we're bombarded with advertising messages. So in the United States, the American Marketing Association has estimated that consumers are actually exposed to up to 10,000 marketing messages every single day.
Wow.
And so we have learned to really shield ourselves from being sold to. So anything that sounds, feels, looks, or smells like an ad, instantly our guard goes up. And so how do we get beyond that? Well, we have to earn trust. And so that comes to, we call indicators of authority. And this is what people are going to look for. So let's say, for example, Ilana, you send me an email and I don't otherwise know you. And your offer's not bad. It's a fine offer. You're just like, hey, notice that, you've got some visibility going on. You're doing some good things. Just wanted to find out if you happen to be doing paid advertising right now. Would love to see if I could offer you maybe some free tips, or, love to chat with you just to see if there's any way I could help you. Okay. That's a very benevolent offer. There's nothing wrong with that offer. And so here's what I'm going to do. And this is what everybody does. And we all think that we're unique in this. And we all think that we have this superhuman skill to read other people, but we're all doing the same thing. Okay. So number one, here's what we look for. We look for the first thing we look for are indicators of success. And so I'm going to look at your signature. I'm going to click on your website. I'm going to look at your website, and I'm going to look for, is Ilana actually successful at what she does, or is she brand new at what she does? And there's no right or wrong here, but it's going to start building this picture. And it's amazing because people will actually spend like 10, 20 minutes checking somebody out when they could again, it'd take like 5 seconds to hit reply and say, okay, sure. Again, because we want to protect ourselves, we want to kind of do some sleuthing before we engage with anybody. So we look for indicators of success. So how do we figure that out? We're looking for reviews. We're looking for testimonials. We're looking for, is there some kind of, are there handshakes going on? Is there some awards, some kind of success? We're going to look to see if your business is actually thriving in some way. So we're going to just look for clues. And Ilana, all of us, we give off what I call poker tells, right? Like it's really easy to figure somebody out today on the internet. And so number one, again, is those indicators of success. Number two, everybody looks for social proof. So generally what I do, a lot of people do the same thing, is I go to a website and I'm like, okay, yeah, looks pretty good. And then what I do, so I click on your social media, and again, maybe marketers do this a little bit more than other people, but I will generally make a decision about somebody based on what kind of follower count and what kind of engagement they have going on. And so I'll click on a Twitter account, and it's amazing how many social media marketing agencies, I'll click and look at their social media, and it's under 1,000. And, that's not a bad thing. I mean, we all start at some point, but it just starts to paint this picture. And so we develop an idea of what somebody is worth today based on this new digital currency. So I click on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever's available. I'm going to check it out. And then I'm going to say, okay, they are probably earlier in their business. And so unfortunately, someone may make a decision that person isn't worth as much. And by the way, Ilana, I need to let you know, a lot of what I'm talking about, it sounds very superficial. And you're right, it is. But we all do it. And so, don't hate the, what's the expression? Don't hate the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's just the way that it is. But this third thing is, would be associations. And so you have an association with the social media marketing world. That is a huge feather in your cap. That when somebody learns that you, out of all of the marketers on the planet, were hand selected to talk about this area of expertise, that is a huge association bump. So, and I think we should all do, again, if we're responsible for, marketing or growth of our company, sometimes we struggle with celebrating our successes or celebrating our, some of these things. And, a lot of times it's important for someone like me to come along and say, no, that logo really needs to be on your front page. People need to know that about you. No, that actually, you need to talk about that in your social media. People want to know that about you. This isn't bragging. What it is it's trust building, and you don't have to do it in a, look at me, but you can do it in a way that says, look, I've been talking about this for a long time, and now our philosophy, this thing that you're part of my tribe, our tribe is being celebrated and recognized for what we believe in and what what we've been, trying to tell the world. Well, the world is acknowledging our what we all know to be true. So it's really good for your community, your tribe, to see you celebrated, and because it makes them feel like they hitched their wagon to the right horse. So again, I often find myself when I work with new clients, doing an inventory of all the good things they've done, and then I'll generally tell them, like, I would have no way of knowing that, and so as a result, I may not engage with you. And really, really important stuff to do.
I think I'm certainly guilty of some of the things that you mentioned.
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are. Yep.
But I guess,
no worries about that. And so it's you, and honestly, it's like 95, 98% of people. I do a lot of pro bono work with great, I work with a lot of military veteran business owners, a lot of female business owners. I do a lot of consultations with companies, and it's everybody. And I don't think that this is a subject that's talked about enough, authority marketing. And the reason why, Ilana, I really start with authority is because ultimately, again, I want influence for people. Because when you have influence, then that allows you to just have a bigger impact on the planet, have a bigger impact in the communities that you serve. But if you don't have the authority, you just don't get the invitations. So something stood out when you, someone figured you out and found you, discovered you, there was something about you that stood out to, Mike or Phil or whoever it was that, you got connected with the social media marketing world. They liked it and they saw something, and likely it was, some sort of indicator of authority that caused you to stand out. So again, everybody listening to this conversation, Ilana's a rock star because she spoke at social media marketing world. That really is a, again, someone who's on the fence of working with a paid ads expert. That is a huge honor. There are a lot of people in the paid ads world that want to speak there. I'm kind of on the outskirts. I'm talking about something weird that people don't normally talk about. So that's how I snuck in.
And, confession, I don't even have that on my website that I spoke there, which is probably really bad. But I guess that kind of
Oh, yeah, do it. Do it.
ties into kind of those three elements that you're talking about with the success indicators and social proof and associations.
Yeah.
Like that's where your website or your landing page where you're sending people to is so critical to demonstrate that. But it's interesting because like I'm a female in Australia, and I think Australian culture is not really a culture where you shout from the rooftops your success. And I think
Yeah.
also a lot of women as well fall into that
Yes.
as well. So maybe our
Yep.
female business owners in Australia can relate to this in terms of,
It
you know,
Ilana, you hit the nail on the head. It is a very, very well-known phenomenon. And we
it's
work with,
interesting.
I'd say about 65-70% of our clients are actually female. And that's absolutely true. We see it.
I know.
It's a cultural, it's a weird cultural thing. But again, we don't do this to brag about ourselves or make ourselves feel great. We really, really do it because, I mean, think about it from this perspective. Your potential client or customer is out there. And if they don't make those, if you don't connect the dots for them, that they should trust you, what is the consequence of that? What are the other things that they might choose to do with their money? Ilana, I'm sure you know I'm sure you've seen the work of, and I use work in quotes, of a lot of bad paid advertising managers out there. Unfortunately, there are bad agencies, there are bad actors, and your job is to protect and save your audience from getting burned. I blew 25 grand with my other company investing in public relations because I thought that was I had gotten in the media, at that time, well over 1,500 times myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, what would happen if I hired a professional here? I hired a quote unquote professional. And here's what I got for my $25,000. I got one good introduction to a local reporter, and that was good. And then I got to speak at a lawn and garden show, and that was my $25,000.
Ouch.
I have a mandate. Like I have to save business owners from old school bad PR. Where they're just relying on old school tactics of, pay me for an introduction kind of stuff. It's just, in press releases and all this old school nonsense. It just doesn't work anymore. There are just much better ways to communicate authentically. So I need to save people from that. And I also need to save people from obscurity, because obscurity kills business. Obscurity causes really, really great people to suffer in stagnation. So when I wake up in the morning, I've got urgency. Like I have to do what I do or people are going to go out of business. So that's why I'm like, I'm kind of uncomfortable talking about this. Believe it or not, it may not sound like I'm uncomfortable, but I really am. Like, it's like, I just, one of my biggest fears is being called a phony or something like that. So it is very difficult for me to, toot my own horn, as it were, but I do it because I know that my potential audience, they just need to hear that.
Okay, cool. So let's assume we have taken all the necessary steps and our authority is reflected very nicely on our website.
Yes.
What's the next step that somebody would take to sort of, outreach?
Well, okay. So you mentioned the website, and that's very important. I would actually, if someone were to say, Josh, what's the one thing that I can do in the next 7 days? I'm baby brand new at this. Like, I've really never given it much consideration. What should I do? The very first thing I think that somebody should do is they need to hire a professional photographer, and they need to get new headshots. And I will tell you that probably, and that applies to about 90 to 95% of us. Headshots are your calling card. It is the first thing generally that somebody makes a judgment on. Assuming that, otherwise your marketing's fine, all this other stuff. I mean, it's, someone is going to look at your face and look, there's not much you can do with,
it's like you get when you don't
I'm
get
a little
upset.
goofy looking. And so that's what God gave me. So look, you can't change that, but at least you can lead with a great representation of yourself. Because when you meet someone in person, you see the beauty of that person. You feel the beauty of their energy. You feel their authenticity. You feel their energy. That doesn't often get conveyed in most people's photos. It's kind of hard to do that. And so what we're talking about is we're actually talking about lowering the digital barrier. And a great photo communicates who you are more authentically than a bad photo. And the reality is we live in a swipe left, swipe right world. And so if you say, okay, I'm going to go get much better photos done. What I have right now is about 3-4 years old. It's just, it was a selfie or whatever it was, or, it's, and by the way, if you want to know the truth about your photo, I highly recommend a website. It's a free tool you can use. It's called photofeeler.com.
Okay.
Photo and feeler, Feeler. It's absolutely free. You upload your photo and then you go vote on a bunch of other people's photos, and then you'll get credits, and then people will then judge you on your photo, which sounds scary.
It does sound
really
scary.
But yes, but you listen, you got to have this information. You have to know this. And what I find is that the feedback is generally pretty spot on. Like, it's, some people just have weird opinions, but it's important that you get a cross section of what everybody's thinking, because here's what I don't want is I don't want you to do all of this marketing work and then you're like, people aren't really responding. I wonder why. And if you just had the honest truth about, ooh, yeah, you're coming across as a little bit of a creeper in your photo, or you seem insincere or forced smile, I can't really see, because it's not really zoomed in on your face. All of these things can decrease your conversion rate. It can decrease, believe it or not, like a bad photo can decrease your revenue. Listen, again, is this superficial? Yes, it's absolutely superficial. So again, don't hate the player, hate the game. And it's just the way that it is right now. And so listen, in the United States, if you have a friend who's a photographer, generally friend price is about $100, maybe $150. Professional photographer, usually around $300 US. And is it worth it? Absolutely. It's worth every penny. Oftentimes, you might find photographers at conferences you go to. That's a really good deal. Like if you have a really great photographer that's just taking a bunch of people's photos on the site at the same time, that's a really good hookup. Or you can get together with, say, maybe like a networking group. Get a bunch of people all at once. You can really get a hookup that way, pricing wise. And then take your new photos. Upload them to Photo Feeler, and you can find out. And that you will get rated on likability, your authority, kind of like how professional you look, how authoritative you look, how successful you. I forget what the 3 categories are, but it's a great exercise. Okay. I generally recommend people get new headshots every 2 years.
Okay, cool. I think that's actually really good advice. So I completely agree with you. Once again, I'm yet to do that too.
I love this. See, what's great about this, I love this conversation because Alana, we're laying out some action items I don't think are on people's radars. And that makes me so happy. I just think of all the people that are now going to go out and get new headshots now. And I'm just so excited for this, what I've done to stimulate Australians' economy just by this good advice.
Cool. All right. So we've nailed our website with good success indicators. We've got good headshots. What's the next step?
Your social media profiles. So this is, you're going to get judged on this stuff. And so Now this one's going to vary depending on what your industry is. If you are, let's say, a consumer product or something like that, you're selling makeup, then yeah, of course, Instagram is going to be your number one, possibly Facebook. We generally work with a lot of B2B clients. They're selling professional services or training author speaker coaches. And so I would tell you that even if you're not B2B, if you're B2C, that your LinkedIn profile, I don't think you can over invest in your personal LinkedIn profile. I'm not talking about your company thing. Your company page. I'm talking about your personal profile.
I couldn't agree with you more, actually. I think LinkedIn
here's the deal.
Is a beast.
Yes. So here's the deal. Here's why. There's somebody who's listening to our conversation and they're like, Josh Elledge, I wonder, he sounded like, he had a couple of good ideas, far too much energy for my taste, but let's go check him out. How does somebody check out me? So generally what they're going to do is they're going to go to Google and they're going to do a Google search. They're not going to be able to spell it, so I'm going to help them right now. But it's Josh, Josh. My last name is Elledge, E-L-L, and then Edge, E-D-G-E. And usually, depending on where you are, I'm guessing around number 4. The number 4 search result is going to be my LinkedIn profile. And so if somebody wants to know, I wonder what's up with this Josh guy, they're probably going to click on that before they click on my Twitter feed or even my website in many cases if they want to know about me. So, Ilana, I'm going to ask you here's a pop quiz. Mm-hmm. How much control does LinkedIn give you on what you can put on your profile?
Complete control.
Yes! So
I only know this because I recently redid my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, they give you like a big billboard to put something behind your photo that everybody is going to see. And so wouldn't it make sense that if LinkedIn is, okay, let's think about who is going to be looking at this LinkedIn profile. Well, it's probably people that they're curious about you and they want to know how you can help solve their problems. So first thing they're going to look at, guarantees they're going to look at your profile picture. And then if that checks the box, they're like, oh, okay, all right, it's Josh, just pretty decent linked profile picture there. Then they're going to look at the, probably maybe the description, my name, my title, and then they are going to look at that big picture, that little billboard ad that I have behind it. And so I'm going to use that image, and you can see, like if you're looking at mine right now, you're going to see that I use that inventory. It says grow your authority, influence, and revenue. That's communicating directly to my audience. Then I actually put some of my biggest credentials there, over 2,000 media appearances, syndicated TV and newspaper expert, speaker on influence and authority, got my logo on there, good, bright colors, smile, good energy. And then, we continue on. I'm not going to go through all of this, but listen, if you don't even need to pay me a dime, just copy what I do. This has been battle tested over the past 5 years. We've been tweaking, testing. We do pretty much most of our lead gen we do on LinkedIn. And so every change has been tested. My about section, it's very intentional. Everything there is absolutely on purpose. I embed videos. I really go all out on the description of my companies and my background and experiences. And so, everything is very intentional because I know that the person who's looking at my LinkedIn profile is curious as to whether or not I can help them. So I want them to know the answer is yes. Now, beyond LinkedIn, I'll just say that I also believe that Twitter is extremely important for most business owners, particularly if you want to build your own personal brand. And so if you want to do more public speaking, we work with a lot of speakers who come in and they say, Josh, I'd like to start getting paid for speaking, or like right now, I'm only making about 1,000, 1,500 per engagement, and I'd like to make more. So, and we're very good at this, by the way, because I could tell you that most speakers who earn, 5 figures plus speaking, generally have very big Twitter followings and are very engaging on Twitter. They have a lot of engagement on Twitter, and they absolutely have a really great Twitter profile. And so the followers and engagement, that's going to take a little while to build that up. You could do that. You follow best practices. But what you can do this week is you can really build an amazing Twitter profile. Fill out the bio, really just maximize everything that that Twitter gives you, and take advantage of it. And I mean, as a result, people are going to make decisions about your level of authority. And if they think that you are someone that, it looks like people respect Ilana, then they are going to respect Ilana. And everybody should respect Ilana.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm in agreement with you there in terms of getting really good social media profiles. We've done that now. What would be the next step for somebody who wants to really leverage the media?
So I'll just go through a few other things real quick. I really think that everybody needs to, if you want to get in the media, it's going to be so much. Listen, do you want to get in the media and have it be easy, or do you want to have it be more difficult? If you want it to be more difficult, well, don't listen to what I'm about to tell you. If you want it to be easy, then listen to what I'm going to tell you. Okay. All this stuff, by the way, it's amazing because most people, I see this all the time. They come to us and they're like, hey, can you pitch me and get me blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we can do that. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be more expensive. And the reason why is because I'm going to pitch you and the journalist is not going to like who you are. And so we're going to have to pitch, or us or anybody. And so that's why I really focus on this authority first. And sometimes people are like, I don't want to do the authority first. It's like, I just want you to sell me because I want the visibility and I want to make more sales. It's like, look, it's how much money do you want to burn through? It's you see, I'm sure, Ilana, you've got some clients that their CPL is like ridiculously low. And then you have some clients that it's pretty high.
Yes.
And,
there's kind of no shortcuts to it, really.
Yeah. And so I want to make sure that, we make a better go of it. And so I think if you want to work with influencers and media, you need to have a press kit on your website. You got a media kit. And by the way, there's like 3 different kits that many of us are going to have. Okay. You're going to have a speaker kit. And if you want to do speaking, you need to have a speaker kit. And that's going to help get you hired. If you don't have a speaker kit, you're not going to get as many gigs. Bottom line. Media kit. How do you engage with brands, advertisers, and partners? That goes in your media kit. Then you have your press kit. And your press kit is, yes, I work with the media. I work with the press. I am an expert in my industry. And this is everything that you want to know about me and how I can, what my area of expertise is. So what goes in a press kit? Again, you can go to upmyinfluence.com. You don't need to pay me a dime. Just go copy mine. It's honestly, I could spend a lot of time, and we do a lot of press kit makeovers and all that other kind of stuff. But honestly, if you take a look at the 10 most successful people in your industry and look at their press kit and then just copy it. That's a really, really quick and dirty shortcut. Now, the reality is a lot of people are going to get excited about that. And they're going to think about doing it, and then they probably won't do it because they're just going to get too busy with the tyranny of the urgent. But I'm telling you that my job is to help make your work a lot easier and a lot more profitable. So you got to get this done. Okay. And so whether it's me or you hire somebody else to do this for you, just get a press kit on your website. It needs to be linked in your header or your footer, and it needs to say press kit, press, something like that. Okay. In the media, that would be fine. And then, so you got to have that. Then you get your media. Okay. If you don't have any media logos on your website, maybe you've been interviewed on a podcast, maybe you've been interviewed, just small stuff. Go ahead and put the small stuff on there. Because you got to start from somewhere.
Yeah, something's very better than nothing, right?
Absolutely. And okay, here's the thing, is that and I see this a lot. We get people and they come in and they say, Josh, can you connect me with Gary Vaynerchuk? Absolutely, I can. Can you connect me with Tony Robbins? Absolutely. It's not rocket science. Like we know how to do that. We know best practices for that. We may or may not have personal relationships there. It's really irrelevant in my opinion. Matter of fact, if you're working with an agency that has personal relationships, you buckle up, Buttercup, because you're going to pay a ton of money. If you're working with a PR agency that has a personal in with a big time celebrity, they're going to charge you a ton of money for it. And I don't think that that's really necessary today. I think that if you lead with a great presentation and a great first impression and high authority, you don't really need to pay for introductions. You could do this yourself. But again, so you've got all that other stuff. You got your press kit, got, whatever logos you got. Okay. When you say that you want this really, really big media, okay, you have to honor the stair-step approach to this, okay? You may not be, if you've never been on TV, and I'll just use the United States as an example, okay? If you've never been on TV and you say, Josh, I want to get on Good Morning America or the Today Show or Ellen or someone like that, I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not, you're going to waste your money. Because I'm going to pitch you and they're going to say, okay, they're going to do it on their own. They're going to look for video of you. I can give them the best pitch in the world, but they're going to look for video of you. Mm-hmm. And if they don't see evidence that you've already been on major market television, they're not even going to give you a second. They're not going to give you, they won't give you more than like 30 seconds. They're not going to take a risk on a bad guest. And so similarly, like, let's say that you want to be in Sydney, Chicago, New York, LA, New York, Hong Kong, Tokyo, whatever, right? You're going to have to do medium market TV before you can do major market TV. And by the way, I'm using the illustration of television. This same thing happens if you want to work with influencers. You gotta spend your time in the trenches. You gotta spend your time earning your stripes. Stop reaching out to the biggest influencers because you know they have the power to wave their magic wand and turn you into a celebrity. Do they? Yeah, they do. They really, really do. Oprah can turn people into millionaires overnight. She has that power to do that. Mm-hmm. But Oprah's and her producers and, whoever else out there, I'm dating myself. Oprah's, kind of taken, she's busy with Weight Watchers and all of her other projects right now. But again, they're not going to work with you if you haven't earned your way to their level. Mm. So generally, what we do when we get someone is we say, great, we're going to do 10 small podcasts. We're going to do 10 small media outlets. And then we're going to aim for some small to medium size. And then we're going to aim for medium. And then we're going to aim for medium to large. And then eventually we're going to aim for large. And really, I honestly think that that the big deal in media is, you always want your authority, want your media that you do for authority. I mean, you get those. But honestly, like the big deal today, like in the eyes of Google, honestly, I think is the accumulation of all the small deals. If you are seen and talked about everywhere, then Google's going to see that. Even if you don't get follow links back, if it shows up in Google News, Google's smart enough to know, I'm not the expert on this, but I've talked with enough smart SEO people who have kind of nodded their heads and said, I agree with you. And that is you just want people talking about you. And Google will say, there's something to this Josh guy that we should probably give him a little bump up. And that's what we want. We want that visibility.
I guess, I can totally see how to get on the major media outlets, they want some kind of proof of, that you can handle being on television, for example, and provide a good experience for people. And so using the lower authority media outlets as that stepping stone. Is it sort of the kind of thing where do you need to pitch the content idea, or is that they're going to come up with that themselves?
Oh, no, 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 no. You have to write everything for them. No, don't. Yeah. And I see this a lot where people assume that the media is going to do any bit of work for you. They don't have the bandwidth to do it. So if I mean this is really like our approach to working with media or even influencers is we do everything for them.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, one thing that we absolutely dominate is that we do a lot what I call media inquiry placements, where journalists are saying, hey, working on this story, need an expert in real estate who specializes in fix and flips in distressed areas. And so what we do is we monitor that stuff really, really closely. And then we find a client, and then we write for the journalist something that they can copy and paste.
Oh, wow.
And we write it in third person. We write it exactly as the journalist would write it. And they copy paste, and oftentimes they don't even reply back and let us know. We just find out about it, a week or two later, and they used it. I've been a journalist, thankfully I've, worked independently, so I don't, do it day to day. But I've been writing a syndicated newspaper column for over 8 years now. I just have a lot of friends in the space. It is a really, really tough job. It's to be a broadcast journalist or even a writer, even a freelance writer who every single day you're expected to pump out, 1 to 4 articles on different subjects. So honestly, if you're a journalist, you could use all the help you can get. And our job as experts is to make their job insanely easy. So then we can become a reliable source. And, I've had journalists that they've used me over 100 times. And they know that they can. And I get an email from them, and I will drop pretty much everything I'm doing, and I will answer their question immediately.
Interesting. Wow.
Yep.
I guess, if I were a journalist and somebody hands me something that I can literally copy and paste versus something I'm going to have to edit and rewrite, well, it becomes a no-brainer.
Forget it. No way.
Yeah. Okay. This all sounds really, really interesting. Is there something that we haven't covered yet that you think is important that we need to talk about?
We've covered a lot of ground, and I would tell you, for the person who's listening to us, listen, I hope you know that this is 2,000 media appearances of experience talking right now. Like, I'm not messing with you. Like, if there were a faster way to turn you into a media celebrity, I would be teaching it. And honestly, there are things that I used to teach like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't teach anymore. And the reason I don't teach it is because I've tested it across thousands of people, and I have seen what people will actually do, and I've seen what really moves the needle. And so I spent a lot of time talking on authority when I think a lot of people want to know, but what should I say in the pitch? And honestly, what you say in the pitch is not as important. Yeah. It's like as long as you are a helpful, thoughtful person, that really matters more than, crafting the perfect language or anything. I mean, it's really good to know the vocabulary and that sort of thing. I mean, it can really help you, but not as much as getting your act together on your online branding. That stuff really matters.
Yeah, definitely. Well, more so in this day and age than I'm sure 10 years ago, for example. It just gets more and more important, more and more relevant, and there's kind of like no shortcuts to it.
So that's another thing too, is I don't want someone who's listening to me, I don't want you to get bummed out thinking that this is, it's just way too much work. You don't have to have everything done this month. But if over the next 12 months, I know a lot of us are always, we're always worried about how much money we're going to make this month or this week or today or whatever. A lot of us, I've heard this a number of times, people talk about, kind of the, hunting versus farming.
Yes.
And so I am, look, you do the hunting. I'm going to, be your farming department. And I'm going to work on getting your crops planted, your seeds, planted, and your rows plowed and all that other stuff. And, it just, keep me, make me part of your team, whatever that looks like. I do a lot of pro bono stuff. I do a lot of free stuff, free videos, free YouTube, free podcasts. Like I incessantly teach. I'm a teaching maniac and I love giving it away for free. And, I just believe that, when you're successful in business, I think we all have a mandate to give and help our next generation of people to become successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming on my show. I really, really appreciate your time. Where can people find out more information about you and how you could possibly help them?
We have a free quiz you're welcome to take.
Cool.
It's an authority quiz. And if you go to upmyinfluence.com/quiz, it's 10 questions. We've kind of identified, 10 very, very important areas, indicators of authority. Just take the quiz. I'm going to give you a score. And then I'm going to give you a huge list of resources, kind of like the photo feeler I talked about earlier. I've got about 20, 25, 30 other things, little tools that you can use. Most of them are free, that you can use to really monitor and grow your authority. And I'll even give you a free video masterclass. And all I ask is that, just do the homework and actually, do what I teach and do what I do, do what I'm telling you to do,
Yes.
Because it really will make a difference. And, if it was, helpful for you, then let me know. That would be the greatest joy I could ask for.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much, Josh. I know it's nighttime where you are, so I appreciate the time out of your day. And thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Ilana, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks. You have been listening to the Talking Web Marketing podcast. For more information or resources on today's episode, head on over to talkingwebmarketing.com.